Hello, this is JB Sissel bringing you today's Ask Mike question. What's the difference among spring practice, preseason practice, and practice during the season? Mike is joining us from Charlotte via Skype.
Yeah, so that question actually has three parts. So it actually starts with, what's practice like in the springtime, then what's practice like in the summer, which would encompass your training camp practices, but also your pre-training camp practices, which is your organized team activities or OTAs, and then your in-season practices, which look significantly different from the previous two. So I'll address each in kind. Your spring practices are a lot of fundamental work. It's a lot of technique. They're typically around 2.5 hours, and you do that three times a week. Sometimes maybe you'll sprinkle in a fourth on a Saturday, but the NCAA has restrictions on the number of spring practices you can have. And you spend every day kind of doing your position work. So obviously there's no real need to game plan for anyone because you don't play another game for another 4 or 5 months or so. So it's a good time to go ahead and hone your skills, hone your technique, work on your fundamentals, and that's what coaches really preach. It looks a lot like the first 2 weeks of training camp, which we'll get to, but it's really just you scheming and game planning against your own playbook. So offense, like Carolina's offense versus Carolina's defense, and vice versa. You get really good at your playbook. You get really good at or at least the idea is you'll get really good at the fundamentals and the position work that your coach wants to instill in you, and that's when you kind of offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators will throw in some different gadgety type of schemes and things just to see what they're working with going into the season. That way they can start ruling stuff out so they don't waste time in the summer. So your spring practice is going to be, again, it's going to be a lot of fundamental work, a lot of drill work, just kind of working on you as a player. In the summertime, you've got your training camp and pre-training camp. So your pre-training camp is your organized team activities. And anybody familiar with the NCAA's rule book knows that your coaches can only have, your position coaches that is, can only have so much contact with you in the summer. It's extremely restricted. That's a time for coaches to decompress. It's time for players to get away from the coaches, things like that. So what will actually happen is we'll go out. This is usually followed by, it follows the last workout group of the day, so your later afternoon when the sun's going down. The leaders in your position group, your seniors or your captain, will go out and they'll get everyone together. And in shorts and a T-shirt, you just go out and you run through plays. You hit dummies. You run through actual scheme. You work on position drills, so fundamentals. Your footwork from an offensive line standpoint, we'll work on pass sets. We'll work on our gap scheme, run footwork. We'll work on double teams, things like that. All position groups do the same thing. The skill guys will go run 7-on-7, and this is all player run and player instructed. Now we'll do it with a little bit of guidance from a position coach. You may say, "I want you to look at this, that, and the other." A couple of different fronts or a couple of different offensive sets because they see something in the first or second opponent you're going to play that year, and they just want your brain to start getting jogged a little bit, start getting familiar with that. But it's really just an extension of the springtime, working on your fundamentals. Then you get into training camp. Training camp for the first few weeks